The semiconductor market had a great day today. We can see the SMH, which is a semiconductor ETF, was up over 3%. Luckily for us, our favorite semiconductor company, NVIDIA, was also up over 3% on today. Now, in today's episode, what I want to do is take a closer look at some recent updates impacting NVIDIA. I want to say over the past 24 hours, we got some updates from xAI, the AI company ran by Elon Musk, and we also have some great analysis on NVIDIA and their competitor by one of my favorite semiconductor analysts in this space. So let's take a closer look. But before we go any further, make sure to hit the thumbs up, make sure to hit the subscribe button, check out the pinned comment for a special offer at fool.com/Jose, and check out my daily semiconductor newsletter, whatthechip.happened.com. The link is down below. It's completely free.
I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for the subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
All right, so like I mentioned, NVIDIA was doing great today with the stock up 3.6%, almost back to $140. Like I mentioned, this is a stock for the patient investors, and I believe about a week ago, I did an episode that, hey, look, the patient investor was going to do great. All right, so the first topic I want to take a closer look at is xAI, right? This is the huge AI company being led by Elon in forms of the AI space. Now, one of the important things is they talked about their $6 billion Series C, which they did a few weeks ago, or we kind of heard about a few weeks ago. But they kind of talked a little bit more about who were some of those partners, who were some of those investors. And to many surprise, NVIDIA and AMD also participated as strategic investors and continue to support xAI in rapidly scaling their infrastructure. So this is going to be an episode mixed with a little bit AMD here and there. We can see AMD stock was up roughly 4.5% on the day. So I think I've mentioned this in previous episodes. Many people just see the investing in these AI companies by companies like NVIDIA and AMD as just, hey, look, a way to make sure that they get plenty in revenue when they're expanding their overall AI infrastructure. But I believe one of the main reasons for investing like this is because NVIDIA, for example, is now put in the front row of how these AI companies are going to be using their products. What kind of software solutions, what kind of software libraries do they need to develop? How can they improve their overall chips? Because now they're in the front row of kind of all these AI companies. So I think that was great news. Some strategic investments, and definitely one of the things that made headlines today. Now, xAI did talk about kind of their supercomputer Colossus, which has 100,000 NVIDIA Hopper GPUs. This is going to double to about 200,000 NVIDIA Hopper GPUs using NVIDIA Spectrum X Ethernet networking platform. And they also mentioned that in Grok 3 is currently expected to be their most powerful model. So if we continue to see kind of this huge innovation, and I'm definitely curious to see how Grok 3 is going to do. I mean, right now we are kind of seeing this huge AI battle. OpenAI just recently kind of previewed O3, which was a huge performance boost. So it's going to be interesting to see how these AI companies are moving. And right now, at least from O1 to O3, we are definitely seeing a reason for AI compute to continue to be heavily invested, or for companies to continue to invest heavily in AI hardware. So right now, they mentioned that the funds from this financing will be used to further accelerate their advanced infrastructure solutions. So at the end of the day, it means they're probably going to be building either more data center space, well, a mixture of all. More data center space, more powering solution for that data center, and obviously more NVIDIA GPUs. I wonder how AMD does feel, though, when kind of they invest in companies and the companies they're investing in are going to be spending billions and billions of dollars in their competitor players, right? So that's the first topic, and it was great, right? It was just good to see. What I really enjoyed today is, some of you might be wondering, Jose, you talk a lot about the semiconductor market. How do you constantly get updated of what's happening in the space? And there's a selected, I personally don't watch YouTube content in forms of the stock space, right? What I do is read and watch videos about technological thinking, or kind of understanding the technology and understanding kind of these semiconductor business. outside of stock prices, right? That's why I want to say most of my videos, there's probably other YouTubers out there that just talk about the semiconductor companies, kind of looking at price to sales ratio, price to earnings ratio, but they don't, in my opinion, don't really discuss kind of the meat behind what's happening with the semiconductor space. And that's because that's how I want to make my channel different. I want to make it where you're not just learning about the market, right? You're learning about why these companies can do so well. And the only way you can do that in the semiconductor market is by learning more about semiconductor technology, understanding where the consumers or the customers are, understanding how this market is evolving. And hopefully that's what I'm doing when you watch these videos, right? That at the end of the day is my goal, to kind of explain how the AI space, how the semiconductor space is evolving, so then we can kind of have a very clear picture of what companies I would want to invest and maybe what companies you would want to invest. One of those persons that I follow or group is SemiAnalysis, and you can check them out at semianalysis.com. Obviously, this is not sponsored by them, but I just want to give my hats to or flowers to those groups that deserve it. They have a paid version. They obviously have a free version as well. And today they announced MI300X versus H100 versus H200 benchmarks. And this is mainly in the training side. And here, pretty much too long, don't read, but definitely recommend it. It's a great read. NVIDIA is so ahead of the competition, not just AMD, just the overall competition in forms of training. I think later next week or in a few they are going to do more of an inference benchmark. But in forms of training, NVIDIA is pretty much the only player in this space that can really combat it. And one of the main reasons is its huge advantage in the software space. Even though AMD is trying to kind of claw its way into the software space, based on these benchmarks, based on SemiAnalysis, they are nowhere near. No other player is anywhere near. NVIDIA has a huge team of engineers that are working at rapid levels, always not only making sure their moat stays the same, but expanding that moat, continuing to innovate at rapid levels. So again, this is why some of you might be wondering, Jose, why are you bullish on AMD? AMD, it's not impossible for AMD to catch up. And I've always said, I don't think AMD is the next NVIDIA. If you watched all my videos on AMD, I've mentioned that. NVIDIA, again, no one is coming close, not in forms of hardware, not in terms of software, not in forms of system building. And that was pretty much what that analysis broke down. It's how far ahead NVIDIA is of the competition. Now, luckily, if you finish that reading, there was another podcast that I watched. There was a podcast that I watched today by BG2. BG2 has had amazing guests in the past few weeks. We've heard from Microsoft CEO. We've heard from Jensen. He was even in this podcast. And this week, they added Dylan Patel, which is the lead analyst here at SemiAnalysis. And he talked about a lot of different topics within this video. Definitely would recommend on your drive to work tomorrow. And one of the things they talked about was kind of is CapEx. How is CapEx going here for all these massive data centers? If you check out my X, I am actually going to be breaking down some of the top short clips from it. But one of the questions was, hey, look, AI data center buildups are driving massive demand for NVIDIA products. Still, many people believe that analyst CapEx expectations for these big players are too high for the upcoming years. Dylan, who works with all these hyperscalers, says that they are far too low based on a few factors for the upcoming year. So it does seem like right now, at least for the next 12 months or so, NVIDIA can definitely see some nice catalysts as we might see big tech CapEx being a lot bigger than most people expect. So overall, that is bullish. Now, they also talked about the memory space, and within the memory space, obviously, we've had a lot of issues with Micron, right? Micron just reported earnings, and the stock was down roughly 89 points. It's down to $89 from a year-to-date high of roughly 153. So the stock is down over 40%. Now, in forms of Micron, we've heard exactly what we've kind of been discussing in this channel, that the memory market used to be seen as a very kind of commoditized product, but because the advancements of HBM, it's kind of shifting that normal thinking or how most investors should know. But then that comes with risk, right? It has to if you want to invest in the memory market right now because of AI, you have to do it in a leader, in a company that's not going to be left behind, in a company that's going to be able to adapt with the fast pace of NVIDIA. And Micron at the moment is definitely going in that direction. So there definitely could be some bullish thesis here for Micron. So again, if you want to learn more about the semiconductor space, I definitely would recommend checking out those two, the video and the blog post. Overall, my opinion, NVIDIA is going to dominate 2025. Obviously, it's not going to be a straight line, and there are going to be signs of weakness as well throughout the time. And I'm going to continue to say that for me, NVIDIA is going to be one for the patient investor. And if you can't be patient, I personally would go with a dollar cost averaging approach. Very, very, very small. But NVIDIA is my number one position, and at the moment, I am not buying. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Take care, have a good day, and see you all next time.